What's up, Dream Nation? Welcome back. And today we have on the line someone who's special. And when I say special, this is a person that no matter who you are, no matter what business that you have, you need to have this type of level of expertise and credibility on. And so without further ado, please help me in welcoming the brand attorney, Miss LaConya Murray. LaConya, you want to go ahead and say what's up to Dream Nation?
What's up, Dream Nation? Thank you so much for having me. I'm excited to be here, man. Like today's topic, I can talk about it all day long. And so I'm all about it.
Great. And we're going to get right into it. But I always like to make sure that we set the right precedents, that we give, the respect to what you've been already able to build, right? Which is being able to be featured on a numerous amount of publications where I've seen you have a booming YouTube channel where people can go and get more information. But before I always like to think of entrepreneurs as superheroes. We run around, we wear a lot of capes. We're always trying to put out a lot of flames and solve a lot of problems. So before your fame, before you became renowned in being a brand attorney and a brand strategist in a way of helping people protect those, brands, talk to me. If we could go back to when you were just a little girl, tell me, who is LaConya Murray?
LaConya Murray. So when I was younger, my mom would take me to my aunt's house, and I have tons of cousins. And my favorite game to play was school. Yeah. So I would have my older cousins in there with a fake chalkboard playing school. I would go to after school programs for the summer, and they would actually give me the books to take with me because they knew that I would. So I am that person. I would say that my story would be more kind of reminiscent of Langston Hughes when he asked the question, what happens to a dream deferred? Because my journey to where I'm at today wasn't straightforward, but I'm so appreciative that I'm here. So I always wanted to be an attorney. So going back to that school thing, like ever since I was, as long as I can remember, like middle school, I wanted to be an attorney. My dad said he knew when I was like 4 years old. We were at the playground and he was like, we got 10 minutes. Okay, cool. We're going to play for 10 minutes. 5 minutes in, he says, we got to go. But I'm like, Daddy, you said we had 10 minutes. Well, we got to go. Well, why? Because I said so. Well, kids have rights too. And he said that's when he knew that I was going to be an attorney. I didn't find out till a little later, but everyone always spoke that over me in my life. So little LaConya wanted to be an attorney. And I saw myself being an attorney when I was in high school. I saw myself being an attorney. I saw my friends identified their talents and said, okay, well, this is you're gifted at singer, so you're going to be a singer, but I'm going to do your contracts. Or you're really great at design, so you're going to have a boutique, but I'm going to, do your contracts and do all that stuff. I didn't know about trade. Well, I'm a little older. So I didn't know about trademarks and what that meant and brand attorney and all that thing. I just knew what I saw and what I wanted to do. And so now that I have an opportunity to do that, oh my gosh, so freaking amazing.
I love it. Now, let's talk about, because you said you identified that. Like, was it in your traits? Were you always debating when you were younger? Like, you always had to win? Were you always the protective big cousin? So you were always, because now that's what you do. You help people protect themselves and you kind of protect it for them. But how did you know that that was your gift? Like, what did you see that early on, that somebody else or a teacher that became a mentor for you, they became an attorney? Or where did that come from? Because I wanted to
I
be
didn't,
an attorney when I was
uh,
younger too, until I found out how much of schooling that there was. And then I was like, I don't know. It's not for me.
I think that's what it is. I had people all throughout my life speak that on me because I kept my head in a book. So now how people are in their cell phones and they're walking with their cell phones, like I would walk down the hallways and just avoid people while I'm reading books, not missing it. I would get in trouble in school for taking my textbook and putting my book behind the textbook and just reading my stuff. Yeah. And I can read. So it is probably like 1,000+ pages. I probably read it in like 3 days. So
Wow.
people saw that about me and knew that I didn't mind reading and studying. And they said, oh, you're going to be a lawyer. You're going to be a lawyer because they didn't know. All they know is that lawyers have to go to school and have to so you're going to be a lawyer. People spoke that over my life. You're going to be a lawyer. You're going to be a lawyer. As far as my friends, I've always been the person that people will come to when they need encouraging on wanting to do something that's not so traditional. So, I don't want to go to school. I want to do X, Y, and Z, or I want to go to school, but I want to study this. But my parents say I need to, be a doctor because that's where the money is. And I'm always that person who said, well, money will come, but I was always that person that people will come to. And I don't know why. People just felt comfortable speaking with me and like they can trust me. And it's a no judgment zone. So maybe that's what it was. Like, I'm not going to, you have this dream, and I'm not going to tell you that your dream is stupid because I didn't have the dream. I'm going to encourage you in your dream. I'm going to listen to you and say, okay, how can we make it happen? So I know I've always been that person. I think that's why people are drawn to me in that aspect.
I love it. I love it. So now you decide, hey, I'm going to actually go through with this. Where'd you end up going to college?
I went to undergrad at, well, I went to a couple of schools. So I was in this program called Upward Bound. I don't know if you're familiar with
Yeah.
it, but Upward Bound. Oh, okay. So I was in Upward Bound, and Upward Bound actually gives you like a free semester of school. So I did that for summer school and ended up going to Berea College in Kentucky because I wanted to get away from my house. And Kentucky University gave me a full scholarship, but took it away because I was out of state. So I ended up going to Berea because there's no tuition. I should have stayed in Berea because there's no tuition. But it was a little country town and it was cold and I was far away from home. So I ended up moving to Birmingham, Alabama, going to University of Alabama in Birmingham and graduating there. Like I said, dream, what happens to a dream deferred? I went to undergrad and I had my daughter in my second year of school. So it took me a little bit longer to graduate, but I did graduate and then I worked for a while, leasing apartments. And someone came into my office. I was the assistant manager at this time and said, I'm leaving. And I was like, well, where are you going? Because I knew she was in law school. I said, well, where are you going? She said, I'm moving to Montgomery. Well, what about law school? Oh, I'm going to stay in law school. Well, where are you going? I'm going to Jones or Faulkner University, but they're not accredited. Oh, they're accredited now. When I tell you, about a week later, I was on campus. Yeah, I had applied and they had a night program, which was perfect for me. And I got in. So I got my undergrad from the University of Alabama in Birmingham, and then moved to Montgomery, Alabama to attend Faulkner University because they are accredited, and I got my law degree from there.
Got it.
So
I
that's
love
my long around story to
where we are today. I love it. So talk,
where
because right now you do a lot when it comes to intellectual property. And why this is so big is because nowadays so many people.
I don't know if you can hear me, but I cannot hear you.
Mm, can you
All
hear
right,
me?
so now I can. Yes.
Got it. So we'll edit that part out. We have an editor, so we'll be fine. Well, what I love about this and having you on the show today is because in today's world, not only in offline, but definitely in online world, so many people are creating personal brands. And, with social media and always trying to put content out there, you might say something that could go viral, right? In a split. And so you're trying to figure out, how do I protect myself? How do I protect my brand? There's so many t-shirt companies out there. Let's
Mm-hmm.
first off start off with, do you recommend when someone comes to you and they say, hey, I want to start a business, do
Mm-hmm.
you recommend that instantly they go get an LLC, or do you recommend that first off they get some customers, they get some income coming in, and then they worry about that on the back end because they could be getting an LLC, but they never turn that into an actual business?
That's an excellent question. And my answer to that is before you even get customers, you need to validate your idea. A lot of people want to go into business, and what I don't want people to do is start spending money on getting an LLC or a trademark if you haven't done the work to make sure you have a viable business.
And
So you
how
have a
do you validate your idea?
so you have a business plan. It doesn't have to be that official business plan that you take to the bank for financing, but you ask yourself simple questions. What problem am I solving? What's the solution? What makes me unique? Who am I solving this problem for? Money. How much is it going to cost to do the work? And if doing the work to start the business is too much work for you, you probably don't want to make that investment into getting an LLC or trademark because you're not in it for the long run. Social media makes entrepreneurship look so sexy, but oh, it's so much work.
It's so much work. It's so
It's
much
so
work.
much
And
work.
Why I ask that is because when you say validating business, here's what a lot of people do. They'll go to their friends and they'll go to their family, right? And they'll ask them. And so there's a fine line on doing that, because what happens if you do have a pretty good idea, but you go to the wrong person, and that wrong
Exactly.
person shuts your idea down, or they say they wouldn't use that product. So then all of it, instantly you're like, maybe I
Mhm.
don't have a good idea.
Well, that's why you want to know who you're serving, because then you can go and find and do surveys. So I have a workbook that I wrote. It's a business plan workbook,
Mm,
and it goes through all these questions. But one of the things that we tell you to do is do a survey, do a market survey. But the first thing is, who are you serving? And if your friends and family don't fit that description of the people who will benefit the most from your product, don't ask them. Those aren't the
mm.
people you want to do. And you can do a survey. You can use things like SurveyMonkey to do a survey. Ooh, you can use Google like keywords and see what people are searching and see if people are having this problem that you're having. That's how you can validate that idea. And you can even look and see, like, if you see something that's similar to it, you can go and like in the comments and just what people are saying about the business and where that hole is that you can get, that gap you can fill. There's different ways to validate your idea.
I love that. I love that you said that. And because a lot of people, they don't use things like SurveyMonkey or even Google, which is crazy. And just like you said, like you could see there's subcategories of that. It might not be that exactly your idea, but if you go
Right.
find a subcategory, maybe you're like, oh, I never even thought of that. So, and I love the fact
Mhm.
that you said that your clients or your family and friends might not be your clients, because I think that's who we go to first off. We're like, oh, I got this idea. And yet, especially if they're not, they don't have any interest in entrepreneurship and they're still
Yeah,
working a 9 to 5, they're going to shut that down really quickly. And it can
so quick.
discourage so many people from going after their dreams.
I totally agree. Now, once you validated that idea, your next step is, I wouldn't personally start serving customers or enter into contracts without having some type of protection. So
Okay.
that's where that LLC can come in, if that's the best entity for you. Now, depending on your business, you have several different types. Most people are familiar with LLC because it's fairly quick in most states, to quick and simple to start. I know that I think it's New York, you have to do like a whole notice in the newspaper and all that stuff. But here and in most places, you just go to your Secretary of State's website, fill out the form, pay your money, boom, you are in business. So, but you want to, and the reason you want to have some sort of protection is, even if you haven't received a paying customer, that first customer can have a problem with your business and sue you. And if you're not protected, if there's no protection between you and you personally and your business, they are suing you personally. Now your mortgage is in trouble. Your kids can't eat because someone from your business is suing you personally because you don't have that barrier between you. So people say, maybe when I reach $10,000 or a certain amount of people, then I'll do that. But the time to validate, that's what they're doing is validating their business on the back end because they didn't do the work on the front end. So before you start working with people, make sure that you're protected in some sort of way.
Got it. And I love that. So when you say, creating that barrier and that wall, essentially for people who don't know, an LLC is a limited liability company, right? And it acts as like its own person, its own entity. Am I right?
So not quite. So that's what
Okay.
corporations do. So corporations were created years ago and they are their own entity. So that's why when it comes to voting and things like that, they're like corporations getting involved in politics and own. But an LLC is not its own entity. As a matter of fact, when you go to like the IRS, they don't look at it. They don't look and see if you're an LLC. They say, well, if you're an LLC, are you just a sole proprietor? Are you being taxed as a sole proprietor, or are you being taxed as a partnership or an S corp? Like they don't recognize the LLC as a separate person or entity. But what
Got
an
it.
LLC does, it limits your liability. So that's where that limited liability comes from. It limits your liability to the company
Got it.
as long as
Got
you're
it.
acting the way you're supposed to be acting. So people, and what it does is, and it's state bound, it's not federal. So you're saying, hey, state, I want you to recognize my business separate from me, like my business liabilities and assets. I don't want you to see them as me. So if something happens, I just want you to keep it within the business. But the only way that happens is if you, as the business owner, treat your business as a separate thing from you. A lot of times people will form LLCs and they're still running their money together. They don't have any set policies or procedures. Like there's no, people can't really distinguish you from your business. And when that happens, then I don't care what paperwork you filed, you're not going to get that protection.
Got it. So one of the ways that you can help yourself is off the bat, once you get that LLC, if I'm hearing you correctly, go get like a business banking account, like a business checking, and making sure that, again, all of the expenses that go through that business, whether it's advertising or shipping and handling, it all goes through the business bank account, not through your regular personal bank account.
Exactly, exactly. And you want to, another thing that can help you too, even as a single member, and when I say single member, that just means that you're the only owner. And so with LLCs, owner, the correct term is member. So when you're a single member LLC, you want to have an operating agreement. A lot in which an operating agreement is a contract. And people say, well, why do I need a contract if it's just me? Well, what that does is it lays out how you're going to run your business, how you're going to handle your day to day. And then as long as you're running your business according to that day to day, if something goes down, you can say, hey, this is how my business said that we were going to run things. And I'm running my business according to that. I'm not just out here off the cuff doing things personally. This is business. And it gives you a stronger position because honestly, as a single member LLC, they are more likely to find that you are personally liable just because they say it's just you. It's just you. So as long as you run your business as a business, you are strengthening your position.
Got it. I love it. Now let's talk about like trademarks and things like that, because trademarks and copyrights is something that I think a lot of people get confused, and it just seems like, no matter what my idea is, unless I got some big corporation, I should never need,
Okay.
copywriting or trademarking or things like that. And so when do you feel that it's right for someone to really start looking at, let's first off just say trademarking. If you have a good brand, you have a good name, you have a podcast, all these things,
Mhm.
when should you start looking at, maybe I should trademark this?
This goes back to what I said about the LLC. Have you planned for it? It's all about it because it's an investment in your business. You want to, again, validate your business. You want to make sure that you're in it for the long run. And what I mean by that, when 3 months comes and you don't have a client or you're not doing business the way you thought you would, are you going to quit or are you going to roll up your sleeves and keep going? And if you're going to roll up your sleeves and keep going, you're like, this is it. This is my business. I'm going to do what I have to do to succeed. Then we can talk about investing in a trademark. You don't have to wait until you've actually launched to apply for a trademark. So what that trademark is, it protects brand identifier. So when people see DreamNation, they know, oh, Casanova is here. He's in the building. He's doing something. He has a podcast. This is his community. He's connected with this. So and what that does is it allows you to exclude other people from using the same or similar name so that they can't benefit from all your hard work.
Hmm.
Because then people looking for you and they find this other Dream Nation, maybe they say Dream Nation Love, which I
Yeah.
can't say that because that's part of you as well. But Dream Nation Believe, I just saw that word. And you're like, well, they added a word on there. Okay, so
Right.
that doesn't really mean anything. So when it comes to when you get to the beginning of building this brand before you've even launched, you want to look at trademarks because what often happens is you invest so much time and energy in building this brand, but you don't realize that you're already infringing on someone else's brand. And now you have to start over.
Got it. Now, how do you find out if somebody else has already trademarked it or copyrighted it? Is it very simple, or do you have to go to like an attorney?
I always tell my people, start with Google. Start with Google can tell you so much. They can tell you what's already out there. So it doesn't in the United States, it's not first to file, it's first to use. So you
Hmm.
want to know if anybody out there is already using that trademark. And so just start with a Google search and see what you find. And if you find something that's so popular and a lot of people are using, then you want to stay away from it. Because again, you want to make sure that you are unique and you want to be able to exclude other people from using your mark. And if 10, 20 people are already using something that's similar or the same, then you're just going to get lost in the sea of that. Does that make sense?
It does. It does. So you find out 5 years in, right? That now all of a sudden you're infringing on someone. You've built a good brand and now you're infringing, because that's something that, I'll be honest, I did not do, right? I thought of DreamNation. I was like, man, I believe everything starts with a dream. I wanted
Mhm.
to create a tribe, but DreamNation is not the most unique. So it's like, okay, let's say I get 5 years into this thing and I'm like, okay, well, I've built a pretty good brand. But at the same time, I don't know if somebody already has it trademarked. What do I do at that? Do I have to reach out to that person and see if they'll like sell me the rights to it? If they're not really using it, is there a certain amount of what they need to be using it, like putting things out there? What's that look like?
So with trade and the trademarks that we're speaking of are federal trademarks. So you want to make sure that the good or service that you're providing is available in multiple states. There are some people who have marks, but they're only using their customers are only in one location. And so that can get kind of a lot of work into, whether or not you can get that trademark, because you might have to partner with that person. And sometimes what happens is you can get this trademark, but then you won't be able to use that mark in this location.
Hmm.
Um, so one of the things that you do is after you've done your Google search, is now you can go to the USPTO's database and you can do another simple search and see what has been trademarked. And you can just kind of type in your name and see what's there. With the trademarks, though, what you have to keep in mind is even if that search comes up empty, USPTO does not just look at same, they also look at similar. So yours is Dream Nation, and someone else is Dream Nations. So they added an S. That's the same confusing mark,
Right.
because it's very similar.
Right.
Or if they have a same, maybe Dream Nation, but they translate it and theirs is in Spanish, it's still Dream Nation.
Right.
So things of that nature that you have to take into consideration. And while we're on this topic, can I just back up for a minute
Yeah.
and just stress the importance of when you're branding, a lot of people, when we first start a business, one of the first things people want to do is get a logo. Can I just tell you all not to do that?
Hmm.
Like, your logo is not the most important part of your brand. And when you're getting a trademark, you're not just protecting this name or this logo, you're protecting what's behind that brand. So take some time to develop what's behind that brand. Develop your customer policies, your customer service, your vision and your mission, so people know what you stand for and they know what they're supporting. So that's what that's what you're protecting with that. A lot of people are getting logos, and they're just getting logos. They're not even thinking about their customer as they're developing this logo. They want to know, oh, this is cute. Oh, I like this. But I would highly recommend to everyone to work with a brand strategist so that you can communicate effectively what your brand is, because it's an investment. And the reason I say that is once you trademark, if you happen to trademark your logo, if you make any changes to it, you got to get a new logo. If I go into the USPTO's database and pull up Starbucks, they have several different trademarks for the same looking logo, but they've made changes to it, so they had to file new applications.
Hmm.
So kind of again, and your logo is not the most important thing when you're starting your business. Like you can have your trade name and that's just fine. And you can develop that like this. I don't know if you can see it or not on my
The
wall.
off the
That's like
mark.
yes, that's like the second variation of my logo for off the mark.
And talk to us about what does that mean? What is the off the mark?
Off the mark, we keep people off your mark. We keep
Got it.
people off your trademarks. And so when I niched down, because when I first started my practice, I was a threshold lawyer. Anything that walked over that threshold, I would do.
Hmm.
Criminal law, disability, uncontested divorces. I didn't really like it. Again, I knew I wanted to work with business owners. And so when I niched down, I was like, what can I call myself besides just myself? How can I connect with the community? And I said, off the mark just really came to me. I was like, because we keep people off your mark and we keep you off other people's mark. It's just one of those things that people advised me not to do, because they say off the mark has a negative connotation. But I'm a firm believer in that you teach people how to deal with you
Hmm.
personally and in business. And so over time, people, they know what off the mark is because I was consistent in my message and what I do. So now when they hear off the mark, they don't think of anything negative, think of me and trademarks.
Got it. Now, using like, I think a lot of the times as well, we don't really know. We don't do the research on the back end to figure out if we are infringing on someone
Mhm.
else's rights. And talk to me about, is there a story that you saw that really that really showed you early on in your career of how serious this is, or something of like, if I was not careful, of how I could lose everything? Is there any story like that that you've heard of that made you just go, wow, like people need to take this seriously?
There are two stories. The first story is one of someone I met at a convention. We had a consultation about trademarks for one brand. They decided not to move forward because they weren't doing anything with that brand. Got a partner, created a second brand. Mind you, after the consultation, never heard from them until like a year later. My phone just started blowing up. I'm like, why is who? Oh, okay, that's interesting. Turns out this person got a partner, created a second brand, and there were going to be three of them. One person dropped out and created a similar business with the same name. These people that talked to me before has dropped like 10K. That's just on getting ready to do a commercial. That's not including getting the business starting and branding and all that. They had a commercial. They were getting ready to get the marketing out, and they just spent 10K. And now they won't have to be forced to rebrand because they received a cease and desist letter because they hadn't filed their trademark, even though we talked about filing an intent to use trademark. They did not do it. And now they will sit there like, do we defend our brand or do we rebrand? All because they didn't do because they didn't spend the 15 at that time, like 25, $1,500 to trademark their brand.
Wow. Is that how much it normally costs? About uh 5 to 1,500?
Between 15 and 2,500, just
Oh,
depending
15 to
on
2,500. I'm sorry. Okay.
mhm. And that includes the filing fees and all that stuff. Now, the second story, I don't know if you're familiar with Super with the crayon case.
No.
Oh, you got it, man. You got man. Her, I'm gonna tell you, her story is amazing. She sells makeup, the crayon case, and her makeup palettes are they resemble school supplies. So she had one palette that looked um like a crayon, like Crayola crayons.
Yeah.
And it, but unfortunately for her, she went one step too far, and she actually used Crayola's branding in her palettes, not knowing anything about trademarks, and not knowing they had trademarked that and they own that. Fortunately for her, Crayola was very forgiving, and they just reached out to her in a cease and desist and said, "Hey, you're infringing on our brand. This is our trademark. This is what we've done." And they gave her an opportunity to rebrand without suing her or anything. But she said she had to get rid of so many palettes because she had infringed on their brand. Like she had to get rid of so much product.
So
Like,
it probably, how much do you think that probably cost her?
oh, thousands, like that, like thousands over like five figures, I'm
Wow.
sure. Yeah. Because she was infringing on someone's brand. And which is why I do things like this. Because if you don't know, you don't know.
Right.
And what I found is in my community, we don't know. We don't. And so that's why I do podcast interviews. That's why I have my YouTube channel, my own podcast channel. It's just because I need for you all to know, 'cause when we know better, we can do better. When we
Got
know
it.
better, we can do better. At least puts that awareness out there and has you thinking. And it goes back to this story. And when you know what can and cannot be done, then you know what moves and how to maneuver. It goes, and I can't recall the young lady's name, the TikTok girl who created this dance called the Renegade.
Got it.
They're really popular on TikTok and everywhere else, but she wasn't getting credited for it because when it comes to dances, certain dances aren't protected by copyright. And if you don't know that, when all this stuff starts getting really popular, you're like, what about me? Like, how can I maneuver? How can I benefit from this? But if you go in there knowing that, hey, I can't put my name on this and have ownership over it, but what I can do is reach out to the person's song that um, that made the dance popular and maybe collaborate with them. You can have other ways so you can get paid. You just have to know. Again, viral. You said when we have something that goes viral,
Right.
have a phrase. What's the guy? It's above me now. He's like, it's above me now. As soon as that came out and got hot, I went to USPTO and found someone had trademarked it, but he had too. But if you don't know what you're doing it the wrong way. Um, and you're
Honest,
not
if
going to
he
get the
had somebody
protection.
on his team that told him right when he saw it to start to go viral,
Mhm.
probably that said, "Hey, you probably want to go ahead and make sure you trademark this because if it does, is it that simple? It's like, is it
It's
like it
not.
just feels like oh, because you go ahead.
So no, so with that, if you don't know any better, someone say, "Oh, you get this viral phrase, you need to trademark it," not knowing that short phrases can't be trademarked unless it's associated with a good or a service. If it's just something that's on a shirt, that doesn't afford you trademark protection, because when I see "it's above me now" on a T-shirt, I'm still going to ask you, "Where'd you get that from? That who's selling that?" Which is what trademarks protect: brand identifiers. They want who is the source of the good or a service. And when you just have a phrase on a shirt like that, it's not telling you anything.
Hmm.
And so if you don't have the right people, if you don't know that, then you're going to go out there trademarking and filing things yourself, wasting your money, but you're not going to be able to get the trademark in the way that you want to get the trademark.
God, I love it. Now, to go back a little bit, you mentioned that when you first started out, you were a threshold lawyer. You were taking
Mhm.
all types of different things, right? And I think for a lot of entrepreneurs or new business owners, they're looking for the profit, but then at the same time, they're looking to find their purpose and their passion.
Mhm.
Now, for you, talk to me about what was that turning point that allowed you to stop being a threshold lawyer and really start to niche down, because that's very tough for a lot of people because they don't know, is this thing that I'm going to go after going to bring me money? How did you have the confidence in that you knew? Now, of course, yours is a little bit different because attorneys are always going to be needed, right? But for somebody else who maybe is not an attorney, how can they start to navigate that?
Let me tell you what I did. So I didn't stop being a threshold lawyer. I just stopped marketing it.
Hmm.
So even if I was taking, if another attorney had a case that they wanted to give me, that was fine. But all my marketing, everything that I was putting out there at that time, I think I was calling myself the small business attorney. Everything was the small business attorney. Everything I talked about was trademarks, copyrights, and business development. Everything, everything, everything. So I was niching down in public so that I can start creating this awareness, this brand awareness. But if somebody wanted me to, step in and take a criminal case, I would do that. And as a matter, and I did that until I was actually making enough money where I can just cut that off. It's kind of
Hmm.
like work. To me, it's the equivalent of working a day job. I was working my day job until my night job was able to feed me.
Got it. I
And I
love
tell
it.
people that all the time. Don't let social media shame you into working. I mean, shame you into quitting your job before you're ready. Like, don't let them do that.
Got it. Now I love that. And I think a lot of people can take, some real nuggets from that of what you said, because branding is everything. And if you don't brand yourself that way, the public only knows what the perception is that you give off. So again, you can
Exactly.
still take those things on the back end, but make sure you show the public where you really want to go, where you're trying to take this thing, and eventually it'll fall off. And for the amount of content that we're seeing every single day anyway, people will forget about what you said a week ago. So if you're constantly hitting them with the small business attorney, they're going to forget what you used to do. And then they'll say, hey, it doesn't look like you do that anymore, but do you know somebody? And then on that one off scenario, you can say, yeah, I still do that. It's just I've been having a lot more success over here, or I've been focusing on a lot more challenging cases over on this side, but I do still do the criminal cases. How can I help? Right? And people
Right.
still just want the help at the end of the day. So I love that. You said you read a lot. Talk to me about what has been the most influential book for you in becoming, the brand builder that you've become with the Off the Mark.
I have a couple. So Think and Grow Rich, love Think and Grow Rich because I always had this feeling coming up. Anything I set my mind to, I could do it. Like if I want, like it just came to me. And when I read that book, it kind of like put it into place. Like, oh, that's what it was. As I got older, one of the things that you get older, it's kind of like when I was younger, I used to jump off the porch and do backflips. And then I got older, and I was like, no, I can't do a backflip off the porch. I might hurt myself. So as you get older, some of that superhero kind of, you forget how powerful you are. And you start procrastinating and all those things. So a book that really got me to move and take action was Mel Robbins,
Five
The
seconds.
5 Second Rule. Yes,
Oh
I was
yeah.
like, I love this. And one of the things I do now, my phone is like, I keep it in the bathroom so that I have to get up. Because if not, then I will just turn it off and go back to bed. But now I get up and I start my day and I love it. But that 5 second rule was really, really helpful.
Yes, I would definitely agree. This has been so phenomenal. Let me ask, for someone who is already super inspired, they want to be able to go along your journey, they want to be able to work with you, but they still have that little voice inside of their head, that little voice that's saying that maybe they're not strong enough, they're not smart enough, they can't read, it book in 3 days, right? And they just have that little voice. Tell me, what's one thing that you would say to that person to get them to just take action?
You are enough. You are enough. And I always tell people, even a baby step is a step forward. No matter if it's just like a centimeter, like as long as you're doing something, no matter how small, that's getting you towards your goal, then you're doing something. Don't look, put your blinders on. Don't look at anybody else and what they're doing and comparing your journey to theirs because you don't know what obstacles they had to do to get to where they are. Just focus on your journey and take one step forward, no matter how small. And if you have kids, when kids are learning how to walk, when babies learn how to walk, they get up, they fall down, and they get up again, and they kind of wobble a little while. Then they fall down, they get up and wobble, and maybe they don't step, but they kind of move the body forward. Then they fall down and they get up. You understand? And that's what we have to do. We have to be persistent, and you are enough. And no matter what, if you just take one step further, you are doing great.
Got it. Love that. And so you have a challenge that you're bringing out as well, right? That you're starting here in the next, month or so. Talk to us about.
Yes, absolutely. So the challenge is it's called the Own Your Genius Challenge. And with that challenge, it is teaching you how to identify your brand, content, and ideas, protect it and protect it. So we will teach you how to identify your brand and protect your content and ideas through this 5 day challenge. We go through trademarks, copyrights, patents, and trade secrets because a lot of people, they don't know. It's a 5 day challenge. It's actually available now. What we have going on in April is the incubator. The incubator is really close to my heart. It's something that I should have launched a long time ago, but I didn't because I was scared. I didn't see anything like it. And I was like, I don't know, all the excuses that we give ourselves. But what
Right.
the incubator is, it is the perfect combination of business and law for people who are just starting businesses and they need that mentorship, that someone to talk to, but you also need that legal part. That's what the Launch Legally Incubator does. It helps you with the planning. It helps you make sure that you have the right entity, getting systems together. And then on a monthly basis, you have live training from me, and you get guest speakers you get speakers from other people because I believe in operating in your realm of genius, and I don't know everything. I don't pretend to know everything. Last month we had cybersecurity. This month we have content management. We're going to have pricing. We're going to have Google Analytics because I love Google Analytics. Like Google Analytics is like just being able to go in there and see who's coming to your website, what they're interested in. It like blows my mind, but I'm not an expert at it. So I bring other people in. So the incubator launches in April. And for my incubators, you get special pricing on consultations and on legal services. So if you're just starting out and you don't have the budget to work with me one-on-one on the full price, you join the incubator and you save like a whole bunch of money.
That's
A
what's
whole bunch
up.
of money.
And we love it. And we're going to put links to both of those in the show notes. So you'll be able to check that out. But this has been a phenomenal episode. You've dropped so much value. And hopefully, again, someone validates their idea. They make sure that they protect their brand first off. And if they don't know all the answers, tell them where can they find you at to be able to connect with you and get any more questions answered that they might have.
Absolutely. You can find me at LaConyaMurray.com. That's my website. And then LaConya Murray everywhere else. That's Instagram, that's LinkedIn, that's YouTube, that's Facebook. LaConya Murray. That's where I'm at. And then,
Got it.
my podcast. I have a podcast too.
Oh,
And
and
I
you
like
didn't
this
drop it?
podcast. I know. So my podcast is called The Legal Tea. Let me tell you about The Legal Tea. I talk about pop culture from a legal view.
Okay.
So last week I talked about Kobe Bryant, him passing, but how he protected his legacy with his trademarks. I've talked about so many different things. The marathon continues when Nipsey passed away. I
Yeah.
talked about that and how that whole trademark drama, Kim Kardashian, like LeBron and his Taco Tuesdays. Like we talk about, it's pretty cool. Like because people always want to know, how do they do that? How can they do that? Can they do that? So that's what that legal T answers.
Got it. Well, we'll put that in the show notes as well. So you can go and you can subscribe to the podcast. I know that I will be. You can check out our YouTube channel. All of those links will be in there. But again, thank you so much for coming on here. Thank you for sharing your wisdom and your expertise. And we look forward to watching your journey, and we look forward to watching you tap into your inner genius as well. Thanks again. Again, we're signing off here until the next one. But remember, Dream Nation, in the dream we trust. Thanks again, LaConya.
Thank you.